While we're very good at playing at the bottom of the funnel and capturing that demand, we're always looking for opportunity a little bit higher in the funnel to get ourselves in front of wine lovers who may not have woken up that day and said, I want to join a wine subscription service. That's one of the reasons we really enjoy working with Nift. What Nift brought to the table was really different from what we see out there in the rest of the media marketplace.
Advertising didn't really change since the 1840s, when people just grabbed consumers' attention with content and sold it to advertisers. And so I thought, what if we can use technology instead of deepening that engagement of the consumer to the point of being unhealthy? What if we use technology just to get consumers to try brands they've never tried before?
Elery and Geoff, welcome to the D2C podcast. Geoff, you are CMO of Firstleaf, Elery, CEO of Nift. Today we're diving into the world of targeted gifting as an exciting new acquisition channel. But Geoff, why don't we start with you? Give me the sort of hero's journey of Firstleaf as a company.
Sure. So I've been with Firstleaf for about 4 years, a marketer for about 20. We can talk about that later. Firstleaf was founded in 2016. And since then, we've become America's most personalized wine company. We've actually helped more than 1 million people find wines that they love. I'm actually one of those people. It still causes anxiety when I'm out to dinner with friends or family and the wine list lands in front of me on the table. It's hard to choose. And so, for Firstleaf, it's the best way to try new wines that you're guaranteed to love. And so it's something that we've been working on improving over the course of the last 8 years. At any given time, we have roughly 300 different varieties of wine that you can try, and we have a variety of different tools and opportunities for you to give us information about your taste so that we can help you find wine that you're going to love.
Super cool. What's been the biggest challenge in scaling this company as CMO?
There have been different challenges at different times over my 4 years here. I would say that the constant challenge is that we're a subscription service, and so like many subscriptions, wine or otherwise, we need, offer an introductory offer, and that introductory offer isn't something that makes a ton of money. And so the challenge that we share with many subscription companies is how do we find not just a volume of customers, but a quality of customer, someone who's not just going to take that introductory offer, but is going to stick with us for the long term, because where we make our money is in that lifetime value.
100%. And you have to get in front of people, because if you just go with the market of people who are looking for wine subscriptions, it's probably a narrower audience than people who might love wine and could be brought into this world.
Yeah, I mean, wine is a mass product, right? Lots of people drink wine. Consumption is actually a little bit lower for folks under 40, still very strong above that. But there's a huge audience out there, and so while we're very good at playing at the bottom of the funnel and capturing that demand, we're always looking for opportunity a little bit higher in the funnel to get ourselves in front of, wine lovers who may not have woken up that day and said, I want to join a wine subscription service. And so that's one of the reasons we really enjoy working with Nift.
What made you aware of Nift? Like what were you looking to solve, or how did you become aware of this sort of gifting option?
We've been working with Nift for, I want to say, over 2 years now. And so I don't actually recall the specific circumstances in which we heard about them, but we as an organization with aggressive goals and a very quantitative approach to marketing, we're always looking for new opportunities to test, new channels to test in. And so what Nift brought to the table was really different from what we see out there in the rest of the media marketplace, whether digital channels or traditional offline channels like direct mail or TV. And so it gave us an opportunity to strongly diversify, and over time, we've significantly scaled the relationship with them.
We're always talking about category creators on the D2C side, on the business to consumer side of things. But Elery, it seems like with Nift, you've kind of created a category of a growth mechanism. Talk about why you built Nift.
In my previous company, I got to work with CMOs of top 5 and top 10 consumer brands in the US. And I got exposed to the fact that advertising didn't really change since the 1840s, when people just grabbed consumers' attention with content and sold it to advertisers. And so I thought, what if we can use technology instead of deepening that engagement of the consumer to the point of being unhealthy? What if we use technology just to get consumers to try brands they've never tried before? And so what we went ahead and did is we developed a closed ecosystem of premium consumer apps and services who basically give gifts to try out new products to their customer base when they take a positive action. Like when you go to a Taylor Swift's concert with Ticketmaster, as a thank you for Ticketmaster, you might get a Nift card. When you upgrade your subscription with Tinder, you might get a thank you Nift card. When you leave a review with TripAdvisor, you might get a thank you Nift card. And that allows us to showcase really two D2C brands that are individually matched and personalized to each consumer and get the consumers 100% attention on those brands, evaluate them and choose the one they want. And the interesting thing about this is these are people who are interested, but not necessarily in the market. So when you get the Nift card from Ticketmaster, you weren't in the market for wine. You might not be in the market for sunglasses because it's winter. But you have to spend that $30 somewhere, and you're going to spend it on something you're interested in. And so that's how we get consumers to actually experience new brands.
Even just that, like that, you spoke about that, the fact that they're receiving these ads after they take an action. This takes me back to my display days when I was buying the Yahoo Mail Monster. It was the most effective ad placement for my advertisers because it was this giant email that popped, or this giant ad that popped as soon as you sent an email. So you're done in action. There's a moment of consideration and pause there, which is so rare in, like, you think about that in the social feed or on Facebook or on Google. You don't have those like moments of pure consideration where they have a chance to like really look at something. I think that's an understated win for what Nift is.
So take that moment, and instead of an ad, put a gift in front of the customer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And the way Geoff thinks about it, instead of spending whatever he's going to spend on Meta, he takes a portion of that and gives it to the consumer in form of a gift. And we've had these conversations many times where our suggestion is reduce our CPA and give more value to the customer. That is going to increase the funnel for everybody. And it's really a win-win-win for everybody. And it's a new mechanism to get your brand in front of people who have never tried it for the first time. I think one of the other critical thing is we curate what the consumer sees. They only see two things. So we can make sure they see stuff they've never experienced before.
Super cool. Well, you're talking about the publishers that you're working with, so there's obviously some serious scale there. Geoff, talk about your scale journey with Nift, and then we can get into the background of how big it can get.
Sure. And actually, before we get there, Elery made a really, really interesting point of this sort of trade-off of, the CPA to Nift versus the value to customers. Too many companies sort of think of media spend and offers, discounts, whatever, as completely different buckets of things to manage. Whereas thinking about them combined, they both roll into EBITDA, can really open up a lot of testing and opportunities to drive more value out of the same level of spend, right? And it's something I would strongly encourage. To actually go back to the question that you asked, as I mentioned, Nift presented this very interesting opportunity to us 2-ish years ago. We started testing with them. What's been great about working with Nift and is pretty unique in the middle upper funnel space is the fact that we can operate on a CPA basis. And so we work very closely with the Nift team, provide a certain target CPA, provide transparency into why that, and then basically let it rip, right? And so we try and capture as much demand as we can at a given CPA, and then work very closely with their team to, test new offers, improve the conversion funnel, make an overall better experience so that more customers or more potential customers are selecting us as a gift and then actually joining up for the club. And as we're able to pull any of those levers, we plow that money right back into scale.
You mentioned the process there, but it's probably a fraction of the work you'd have to do to achieve the same scale on a platform like Meta in terms of feeding the creative beast.
it is a very different level of burden than the constant creative needed to optimize meta. In theory, we could give the Nift team a set of creative and a bucket of money and say, run with it. I don't think we would be doing justice to the opportunity there, because we have the opportunity to pull all of these levers together and drive more performance. But, we don't really talk about, ad wear out in a matter of weeks and a need to sort of consistently be creating new things. And, that can be refreshing at times.
And then talk about the scale you've been able to achieve in the 2 years on the platform.
I mean, we have more than 10x our spend over that period of time. And, Nift is one of our largest new customer acquisition channels.
Elery, talk about the scale of the network that you've created here.
So there's 60 million consumers receiving Nift every month. And the way we think about it is we and Geoff are completely incentive aligned. We're shooting for the same goal. We want our consumers to get the best experience, soup to nuts. We don't have a content play where we attract people's attention with content. We're not a content platform. We don't need to be fed with content all the time. And so what we do is showcases Geoff's products. And so we are very motivated to have a streamlined funnel. And so what we do is we go category by category. And up until now, we mostly grown through word of mouth for D2C advertisers. And we have 3 or 4 wine subscription vendors or wine vendors. We don't need more. And we will go through each and every vertical and find the best match and people who are willing to work with us and our consumers to deliver the best experience for the consumer. And then if we do that, there's significant scale. So people have moved 10, 20, 40, 50% of their meta budget to us. And significant, consistent. Prices don't go up in Q4. Elections don't matter. Steady Eddie. People who lean in like Geoff, and we have people who talk to us once a month and write a check, and that's it.
So talk to me about the verticals here, because I imagine just with the unit economics and the bidding, it's going to work maybe best for brands that have either a subscription platform or a really strong LTV play when it comes to escalating customers through other retention mechanisms. Who do you see this being best for? Like, if you could manifest the best clients from this podcast who are listening right now, who would they be?
Subscription business is definitely interesting, but it's certainly not the only thing that seems to be working. Apparel, even though it's a ROAS goal, 3x ROAS goal, beauty, personal care, home goods, digital services of all types. There's almost no COGS or zero COGS there, including consumer apps, education, fitness, subscription, content, and so forth. Pet and food, health and wellness, food and beverage, all those work.
So if you're listening and you fit into one of those many categories, I think this could be a cool opportunity heading into Q4. Geoff, I wanted to go back to something, to the point that you brought up that you commented on Elery's point about the benefits you get as a business when you kind of think of, I think you were saying, your entire sort of cost spectrum. So whether that be your cost of acquisition, your cost of discount, all of that in one lump sum. I wanted you to maybe elaborate on that point a little bit. What does that free up for you, or how does that benefit you thinking like that?
Sure. Think about a world where you have a completely fixed budget for media and very little flexibility on discounts or offers, right? Again, dramatic oversimplification, but the only lever you may have to pull there is spend more money, and you have diminishing marginal returns. But let's say there's a world where you have flexibility. You may find that going from no discount to the consumer to making it up, a 10% discount to the consumer, drives a 50% lift in your conversion rate. But if you wanted to get a 50% lift in your conversions when you spend media dollars, you might have to spend 75% more media dollars, 100% more media dollars just to get that same value at the bottom of the funnel. Then again, there are maybe some brands that are highly, highly discount oriented and maybe could use a little bit more reach just to be balanced there. But I think thinking about, every tool, every tactic has some diminishing marginal returns curve, and just thinking of where you are across multiple of them may tell you where to focus, and it could be a lot better for your business to drive that conversion rate through a little bit more discount than spending a lot more media dollars.
As long as you're getting the right type of customer. And I think people listening to this, that might be one objection, is when it comes to either gifting or people come in on discounts, there may be a worry that they're not going to be, that they're going to be that type of customer who's always looking for the discount, who's always looking for the gift, but that's not your experience so far.
Well, most of our discounting happens very early in the customer relationship because it's a subscription. But, before working at Firstleaf, I worked at Casper, which is a very different industry, very different price point. And the principles that I'm talking about now absolutely applied there too. And so I think it's almost agnostic as to whether you're a subscription or traditional e-commerce, whether you're a low price point or high. Just thinking about the different levers you have in a combined fashion just gives you more degrees of freedom with which to drive your business.
I think the qualifier here is the consumer. If the consumer is already in the market, and at some point when you give a discount to sway them, push them from one brand to another, you're cannibalizing your revenue. If the consumer is not in the market and you're trying to get them to try a new brand, it's a completely different story. The bargain hunters are already in the market. They're there to lie in wait for the biggest discount. You're already a customer. You're not getting a new customer by doing that. So there's diminishing returns with a gifting platform where you're putting yourself in front of people who've never heard about your brand before. It's not really a discount. No discount is going to get you to try something you're not interested in. And so I think the distinction here is the consumer. Is this a really bottom of the funnel consumer, already in the market, ready to buy, and the discount can be a cannibalization mechanism? Or they're very top of the funnel, they're just interested, they're not in the market, and you're trying to get them to actually move from not doing anything to actually acting.
And by the way, well, I think this is a really important question for an entire business. The quote unquote right answer may be very different by channel, right? We're having a set of conversations with Elery about what's the optimal offer for Nift and what does that imply for our CPA targets, or what does that imply for conversion rates. That can be and likely is very different from a very different channel.
And Elery, you mentioned Tinder. In the example of Tinder, are these free users or are they paid users, or is it sort of a mix of both?
Right now, when you upgrade to paid, you get a Nift card.
Because that's another great qualifier for your network, where these people are already paying for these products that you're opting them into. So they're already buyers, right? As opposed to discount seekers or things like that. I wanted to just go back on a little bit. Geoff finding out that you're a veteran of the mattress wars. That must have been quite a ride. Any high level learnings from your time in the Great Mattress Wars?
It is really important to keep an eye on what your competitors are doing. And actually, back to the discounting conversation, at least in the mattress wars, discounting was often a table stake, not something that was going to differentiate you from the pack. And so keeping an eye on what were competitors offering, what are alternative constructs in order to drive consumer behavior. Maybe you don't want to go to a higher percentage discount. So maybe you think about a gift with purchase. Maybe you structure your promotion differently to encourage a different behavior. But just keeping an eye on what's out there is particularly important in a highly considered purchase category like mattresses with a very high average order value. People are going to be shopping. And so don't think about how you match your competitors, right? Think about how do you create the right experience and incentives for people to choose you.
I guess you also don't always want to be following either in that situation. You want to be because everyone's going to, if you do something innovative, you're likely going to get copied, I'd imagine. You want to be the person kind of setting the trend whenever possible.
I mean, that could be a whole other episode, but it turns out the DTC mattress space has very low barriers to entry and very high barriers to scale. So at one point there were something like 170 different competitors in the space, all sort of nipping at the heels of, 5-ish large players, of which Casper was one. So it was really a fascinating environment to be a marketer in.
So it behooves you then, if Nift is only taking, the top best examples of each of these categories, if you're listening to this podcast, it behooves you to get in touch with Elery at Nift and get in there while you can. because it won't be unlimited opportunity for brands. It'll just be sort of the best in class for the ones that get in. Super cool. Real quick, Geoff, what about metrics? You mentioned this is a little bit more of a set it and forget it platform, or it can be. What are the key metrics that you're monitoring in order to scale 10x on the platform?
Yeah, I mean, being a subscription business, we're always thinking about LTV to CAC and achieving a certain payback on our marketing investments. And so we set a CPA that sort of backs into that payback target. And then over time, as we see quality of customers evolve, as we see scale evolve, we can make decisions of, or as we do things within our own product and experience to improve retention, right? That drives LTV, which then allows us to deploy more dollars at any given level payback. And so, for us, it's LTV to CAC and sort of the drivers of that. So both on the acquisition side and the LTV side.
And then how does Nift compare with your other acquisition channels in terms of those metrics? Is it in the hunt about the same?
We tend to operate each channel, or we tend to operate towards a certain number of months payback. And so there are cases where I may be willing to pay a higher CPA for our higher quality customer, a lower CPA for a lower quality customer. At the end of the day, we're somewhat indifferent across those as long as we're achieving our payback goals. And so Nift is certainly achieving our payback goals.
And so it's more of a blended approach. You don't necessarily go publisher by publisher. I guess you can tell which publishers are producing what LTV, but you're not doing too much micromanagement of that or streaming offers direct per publisher.
Over time, as we build a sense for the dynamics of each source, right? We flex up or flex down the CPA over time. If I think about the spread between our lowest CPA and our highest CPA, it's probably about 8x, right? So there's a lot of variation in there. If we only managed it on a blended basis, we'd either be getting hosed on the economics or leaving a lot of opportunity on the table.
Which is just like all media buying, right? This is just media buying basics, just, takes me back to my display days for sure. And then Elery, what's on your mind as you grow out Nift? Are you constantly evaluating kind of new publisher opportunities? And do you test into them to make sure their quality is high? What's on your mind as you grow the biz?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always, we typically try to work with really the top one or two in every category on the publisher side. And then we have to have enough flow from them to have our machine learning, our AI know their customers and know what they like so that we can match them with the right stuff. And then the other thing we're growing on is brands, adding more variety to our consumers so that we can serve a better experience.
Well, let's leave it there, guys. If you're in the audience and you want to get on this opportunity, you can go to gonift.com. I imagine, Elery, they could also maybe add you on LinkedIn or something like that. Do you want me to include your link in the notes there?
Yes, sure.
What about you, Geoff? Where should we follow your journey?
Well, you're welcome to follow me on LinkedIn. I'd be even happier if listeners would give Firstleaf a try. Happy to share a promo code. Hopefully we'll put it in the show notes too. But go to firstleaf.com, use promo code DTC podcast. Hopefully really easy to remember. We usually offer free shipping only on your first order, but this will give you free shipping for your first year.
Oh, fantastic. Are you in Canada yet?
We are not in Canada.
Not in Canada yet.
And that is probably a whole other episode about alcohol regulations in the United States.
Oh, we'll definitely have you back on for the wine wars, because I'm sure there's a few things that you could say about that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, guys. This was great.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.